So it took me under a year to develop a platform of my own. And to me, this is pretty crazy. I'm going to share on this episode exactly how I did it. And if you listen to the full episode, by the end of the episode, you will be able to do it too. That is my promise to you. By the end of this episode, you will be able to develop your own platform for which you can launch things and use to get traction to your brand if you listen to this episode and do what I learned. What do I mean by a platform? As many of you know, every day I put out a video on TikTok. I use a tool called reusevideo.com, makes the videos come out everywhere else without the TikTok watermark. I feel like a broken record at this point saying it. So many of my listeners know this, but it makes it so that all of my videos are released simultaneously on all the major social media platforms, from TikTok to every other platform: IG Reels, Facebook Reels, YouTube Shorts, Pinterest, LinkedIn, Twitter X, everywhere. And on TikTok alone, each one of my videos, I put out a video daily. Many of you may have found this podcast from my videos. And each one of these videos, I'm at a point where each one of these videos gets 2,000 to 10,000 views. So minimum 2,000 to 10,000 views for each video that I put out. When I started literally a year ago and a couple of days, under 5. It's pretty much the 1-year anniversary from when I started. When I started, my videos were getting, on average, 100 to 300 views when I started. And it took a long time to bump up that minimum. And now that minimum is bumped up by over 10x. And I don't know what it will be like in a year from now, but I'm excited to find out. But to me, it's pretty crazy that whenever I put out a TikTok, 2,000, and I do this daily, 2,000 to 10,000 people will see. And then I have outliers quite frequently, which are videos that are viewed in the tens of thousands. And then every month I'll have several videos with hundreds of thousands. And every month or two, I'll have a video, or maybe more than one video, that has 1 million plus views. But again, 2,000 to 10,000 views per video. Minimum 2,000 to 10,000 views per video. So I've developed a platform, and I had this thought yesterday about how I've iterated in the past year, how my videos have changed, what I've learned in the past year. I was going for a walk last night. I was walking to buy vegetables and fruit, some amazing fresh produce here in Brooklyn. And as I walked, I charted each development in my head. And then when I got home, I wrote it down. And so that's what I'm going to read on this episode. I'm going to share where I started and all the changes that I made to get to where I am now. And you can listen to this and start with where I am now. And you're not going to get 2,000 to 10,000 per video, not immediately, because the TikTok algorithm and the other social media algorithms, by the way, this is 2,000, 10,000 only on TikTok. Actually, the number is a lot higher than that, because I get like around minimum 2,000 on YouTube Shorts, several hundred on Twitter, and now I'm getting 1,000 to 2,000 on Instagram Reels. The other numbers are negligible, but this would make the total about 4,000 to 12,000 if you take into account all the channels. You won't be able to get this at first, because the algorithms need to learn who likes your content, but you'll be able to get there a lot faster than I did. And after doing it for a year, you'll be in a way better spot than I am now, just because you are starting with the learnings that I have accrued over the past year. I opened up my first TikTok to actually post with when I was living in Rome in the middle of October a year ago. I created my TikTok, I made a profile. I learned how to do the basic editing in the app. I was shooting in the app. I was editing in the TikTok app. I wasn't using CapCut. I put in captions in the app. I put in music in the app. I put in just cuts, descriptions, hashtags. I read very quickly that you should use 4 hashtags per video. That's what I was doing. That hasn't changed, by the way. I still do 4 hashtags per video. Then I was doing previews, which show on the grid on TikTok. I read very early on, this also hasn't changed, that you should just use the same style for previews. So I do that. And this like basic learning, I was putting up 1 to 3 videos each day. This was 2 weeks of me just learning how to use the TikTok app, how to shoot with my selfie camera, and how to edit and post in the app. So that was 2 weeks. 2 weeks after starting, I arrived in Barcelona and I started a new account. I was trying to do build in public on Twitter, on X, very time consuming, very competitive. And I noticed that build in public was not saturated on TikTok, and I wanted to promote my startups. So I said, okay, I'm not going to do build in public on Twitter where it's saturated and competitive. I'm going to do it on TikTok where there's a lot of tech people as well, but it's not competitive. So I started making build in public. I opened that new account, which is the account that I have now, which has 67,000 followers and growing. I opened that on November 1st last year in Barcelona. When I got to Barcelona, I was still recording on the selfie camera. It looks, my early videos, if you go and look at my early videos, it looks like I was shooting on a potato. They look bad. And my cuts were sloppy Joe potato cuts. It's making sloppy Joe potato videos. They were sloppy videos because I didn't really care. I was just like, I just want to show. I just want to produce. I just want to show what I'm doing for my companies. I just want to put out content. And I said, I'm going to make a video a day for 30 days in a row. I took off a day right before starting that account. I took a day break. I haven't missed a day since then. I took a day break and I have not missed a day since then. And so when I started that account, I said, I am going to make at least one video a day for 30 days in a row. Let's see if this is a worthwhile channel. That's how I started that account. Like I said, my subject matter was basically a video diary showing my startups, build in public, what I'm building, what I'm doing. I did that for 30 days. And then I'm like, this is fun. This is easy because I really was not spending a lot of time on each video. I was spending anywhere from 5 to 20 minutes per video, maybe less, maybe 5 to 15. Putting out several a day. It was just fun. It was fun to yell at the camera, fun to share, fun to show my startups. People were engaging with my companies. That was cool to see. And I did that after the first month, I said, this is easy. I'm going to keep going. So I did that for 2 months. And by the end of the 2 months, I was getting kind of bored talking just only about my companies. And so not even just out of strategy, just because it was fun for me, I started talking about tech news. Things that I heard in technology that were exciting. We launched one of our companies on December 2nd. I started the TikTok on the 1st of November. And on December 2nd, when we launched on Product Hunt, ChatGPT launched on Product Hunt on the same day. We were going to come in number one. We were ranked number one for the first half of the day. Then around 2 p.m., ChatGPT overtook us on Product Hunt, which is probably the best place to launch a technology product. And then they stayed number one for the rest of the day and just trounced everybody, stomped on everybody. It's ChatGPT. And once ChatGPT launched, I was so excited by it, I had to talk about it on TikTok. That was the platform that I was developing, even though I would have, I said up earlier 100 to 300. It was more, sometimes it was in the tens. Sometimes it was less than 100. Actually, I'm like remembering now, oftentimes it was less than 100. So when I started, I was less than 100. So it's been a greater than 10x increase. Wow, so wild to think about. So wild to think about. But it was me expressing myself, talking about the things that I was interested in. So my subject matter evolved to tech news, infrequent lessons, like things that I was learning about tech and business, and then still doing my video diary startup content about sharing my startups. In the middle of December last year, I got to Warsaw. I was making 3 to 6 videos a day, garbage videos. I didn't know I couldn't really tell good from bad, but I was just like, I'm going to keep putting out videos every day. Let's see what happens. I was revamping my personal site. I was sharing all the updates that I was making for my site. It was a really exciting time. I was in Warsaw, living in this rooftop apartment, waking up at 6 a.m., meditating while watching the sun rise over the city and making TikToks about everything. Then I had a breakthrough on TikTok at the end of January. I moved into a new apartment in Warsaw. I was still sharing tech news, and I copied basically the headline for a TechCrunch article, and that was my opening line for my video. I wasn't scripting anything. I didn't know anything about hooks or anything. I just found some news on TechCrunch that was interesting, and I read the headline, and that video got several 100,000 views. And I sent it to a friend, and my friend said to me, "That's a great hook," because the headline of the article was a great hook. I didn't really understand what hooks were at the time. I didn't understand that the hook is the thing that you say at the beginning of your content to get people to continue engaging with your content, to continue watching, to continue reading, whatever it is, to continue listening. So my friend said, "That's a great hook." And then I started thinking, oh, hooks. I should I should put in more time thinking, I should put in, not more time. I wasn't putting in any time. I should put in time thinking about the opening lines for my videos, because then more people will stick with them. So I started working on hooks for videos. I would go back and forth between different drafts for the opening line. Every morning at 6 a.m., I write down how many followers I have. And over the past year, when I chart these daily followers over time, there are inflection points in my growth. And I can look at these inflection points and know what I did to have that growth spurt. And there is a clear one at this time when I learned hooks. So I learned hooks and my followers shot up. I was making better videos more consistently. Hooks were a really big lesson. I was also scripting more of my videos. Now, at this point now, end of October 2023, my videos are 50-50 in terms of like half of them are scripted, half of them are free form. At this point, around when I learned hooks, I started just fully scripting my videos. Since the reason I did that is because I started writing the hooks for the videos, and then it was easy to write the rest of the script. So I just wrote the rest of the script. I'm like, well, I already wrote the hook and I'm in a flow state. So let me just write out the rest of the video. And my content changed as well. Before I was talking about lessons more infrequently. Now I was talking about them more frequently. So I was still doing tech news, but I was also more frequently talking about marketing, sales, and networking hacks and technology tips. And I was sharing my startup updates more infrequently. My startups were making big moves at this time and doing pretty big things. But it was a lot easier to think about hooks and to have engaging content when I was making videos about stuff that was directly related to the watcher, to the viewer, and that was directly useful to the viewer. The marketing, sales, networking, technology lessons, those are useful to the viewers. The technology news, engaging and useful to the viewers. Me sharing how I'm changing a button, I can make that useful, but I can only talk about UI UX changes so much. And so I wasn't talking about it as often because I had been talking about it for the last several months. So my content, my editing style changed, my writing style changed, and what I was making TikToks about also changed. I was also working on making cuts tighter. I was putting a real emphasis on this, spending a lot of time on this. So my videos were not as sloppy anymore. I was still editing at this point, everything in the TikTok app, shooting everything in the TikTok app. I was spending a lot of time trying to find music that fit the video. And so when I started, I was just using music that I liked and that I wanted to hear. And I would oftentimes use music that did not fit the video, but I just used it because I wanted to hear it. And that shifted around this time to using music that fit the flow and the rhythm of the video. So I shifted to that. I shifted to using music that fit the video rather than music that I just wanted to hear. Another big shift came April 14th. So this is several months later. I'm still making videos every day. I've had many viral videos at this point. And another big change came on April 14th when I had a friend visiting me in Warsaw. And my friend just kept complaining to me about how bad my videos looked because I was still shooting with the selfie camera. And he said, shoot with the front-facing camera. And I'm like, I don't want to. That's too much work. I don't want to do that. But I tried it. I tried it anyway. We were walking home from a cafe. And as we were walking, I just whipped out my phone. I faced the camera towards me. We were walking and I started saying some nonsense. And then I watched the video back and I couldn't believe how much better it looked on the front-facing camera. I was still shooting on an iPhone 8. For listeners of the pod, you know that I've gotten to where I am now in terms of this following for my videos and for my podcast and my newsletter. I did this all with an iPhone 8 and a 2014 MacBook Pro. I just upgraded everything in the last couple of weeks. So I was shooting on an iPhone 8, flip the camera around, use the front-facing camera, not the selfie camera, and I couldn't believe how much better it looked. And so I started shooting all of my TikToks with the front-facing camera, and the videos looked a lot nicer. I think a lot of videos, I think I had a bunch of videos that went viral that wouldn't have otherwise gone viral, but the quality looked so much better. So then a month and a half later, I returned to New York City. This is where I'm recording this now from my home in Brooklyn. And I wanted to record on the street, but the New York City streets, they're not like the Warsaw streets. The New York City streets are loud. So I needed, if I wanted to record on the streets, I needed a microphone. And my Bluetooth microphone on my Bluetooth headset wasn't working with videos. So then I tried doing a wired headset, and I hadn't tried that before. So this is around the end of May, and I started using wired headphones because that actually worked. And I was able to get much cleaner audio with wired headphones. So I could record on the street. If I was recording at home and I was flipping my camera around, you wouldn't notice a difference in audio. So if you're not shooting on headphones and you first shoot the camera facing you, so you're shooting yourself, and then you shoot something in front of you, and you're still shooting with the front-facing camera, because the phone changes positions, the audio changes, and that doesn't sound good in videos. But if you're using a headset, the audio is consistent throughout. And so I switched to a headset because I got to New York. I wanted to shoot in loud situations, and I just learned a headset is better. It's easier. So I switched to a headset. So that was a big change. And then at this point, I stagnated. I was still making videos every day. They weren't doing very well. And several months of this went by. And then it was around the end of July, and two huge updates happened. And I have been growing very rapidly since then. These updates happened one after the other. The first one was I started using Descript, this tool called Descript. It transcribes the videos that you put in. You edit in the transcript rather than on the timeline. When you're editing in the TikTok app, you're editing on the timeline. When you're editing in Descript, you're editing with the transcript. And you can use AI features to make the audio sound better, sound crisper, but also, more importantly, to cut out gaps between words that are over a minimum amount of time. So I set my videos, my TikToks, any gap between words that is over 0.05 seconds, I just make it 0 seconds. And that generally works. So I can record several minute-long videos of me just doing different takes and speaking, even me just riffing off the cuff, and in one click remove all the gaps between words. That was a huge change. That tool is so useful. I still use that tool. So it was easier to make good, engaging content because Descript made it really easy. I would shoot everything on the front-facing camera. I would take that video. I would airdrop it onto my computer. I would put it into Descript. I would do the editing in Descript. I could also put in images a lot easier and videos a lot easier, and I could green screen in Descript. It was so much easier and superior to editing in the TikTok app, and fast and simple. And then I would export it, airdrop it back to my phone, put it on TikTok, add music, and add captions in TikTok. I was doing the captions in TikTok because I think they look crisper rather than if you put them in the video and then import the video. But I may switch. I don't think it's a huge deal. Then the next change came on the next day when I started really putting effort into making subject matter that was useful for founders and marketers. I stopped covering tech news, stopped covering technology news, and I mostly started talking about growth hacks. Occasionally, I would talk about my own startups where I felt like it could be useful for the viewer who was in my target audience. And I was mostly talking about growth hacks, technology tips, lessons, business lessons that were exciting to me, bios of successful founders. And this content, because it was useful and because I had learned everything before in terms of hooks and editing, engaging videos, this content started doing really well. And I started growing really fast. If you look at the graph in my follower growth, it is just a huge, 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 huge increase, huge jump, huge spike. And because these videos were helpful to founders and other marketers, A bunch of them also turned out to be helpful for the general public, which contributed to the spike in views and followers. Like I said, channel is called Build in Public, and occasionally I will talk about the things that I'm building, where it's relevant, where it's useful. And so that's how the content changed. I was really focusing on delivering value to the viewers. But also, because I was focusing more on making useful content, instead of making 3 to 4 videos a day, which is what I was doing up to this point, I said, I'm only going to put up 1 video a day and put in more work into making sure that it's good. I was spending more time on my videos, putting up 4 videos a day. And I said, what if I just took all the time that I'm spending on those 4 videos and I put that into 1 video? And when I started doing that and I started putting up only 1 video a day, that helped my content improve, because I knew I was only going to put up 1 video. So I wanted to make it good for myself and for my viewers. 2 weeks ago, I got a new MacBook Pro. It's a fully spec'd out 16-inch MacBook Pro with as much processing power as I could get. And now I'm able to edit so much faster than when I had a 2014 MacBook Pro, with so many less bugs which were affecting the content. So it's saving me time. It's making things so much easier just because it's so fast. I can watch the rough cuts within the Descript app, and I don't need to render first, which was taking a lot of time. So it's saving me so much time. So I got that. A couple days later, I started shooting in 60 frames per second on my iPhone 8 with a front-facing camera. I wasn't doing 60 frames per second before. I didn't realize I could. And then I realized I could. I started doing it, and the videos looked a lot nicer. And then a week ago, I got a new iPhone. I got an iPhone 15 Pro. So I replaced my iPhone 8 with a single camera with an iPhone 15 Pro with 3 lenses. And I'm shooting on either cinematic mode, which maximum is 30 frames per second. It looks incredible. The background is all blurry. My face is all crisp. It's especially engaging when walking around outside, the background being blurry. Or I'll shoot just in normal video mode, which shoots in 60 frames per second. And that's where I am now. To me, it's absurd. It's unreal that when I put a video out, which I do every day, several thousand people minimum are going to watch it. And so a lot of people are just growing to know me and to look forward to my daily videos. It's so wild. It's humbling. I'm so grateful. But also, when I look back upon all the iterations that I made with my content, it's cool to see how I just kept building in terms of the content, in terms of the video, how I just kept building and building and building and building and improving and improving and improving and improving. And that's how I was able to get to where I am now. So if you listen to all of this, thank you if you listen to all of this. This is episode 113 of The Edward Show. If you listen to all of 113 of The Edward Show and you want to start making content and getting your own platform, which is an amazing growth hack. It's an amazing hack having your own platform. If you want to start, shoot on the front-facing camera, focus on hooks, use headphones, use a mic. It could just be cheap wired headphones, but it'll still sound better. Do that if you're switching the camera around a bunch in terms of positions. Shoot on the best camera that you can, but if you're shooting on an old camera, I mean, I built my audience on an iPhone 8. Just shoot with the front-facing camera. Use Descript. Seriously, use Descript. Use reusevideo.com and try to give value in your videos to your audience. And now, how is my content changing now? Last night was amazing. It was an amazing evening. I sat at my desk in the warm orange glow of my lamp with hot tea and whiskey. It was a hot toddy. I love having like very mild hot toddies before bed as I journal. And I was sitting there journaling, drinking this tea, and I was writing about how my brand was evolving and what I wanted it to be, and trying to write out a mission statement. So what I wrote, I assume this will continue to change, but what I wrote about what my content is I'm making videos, recording podcasts, writing articles and newsletters about what I called exponential inbound marketing strategies for startups and SMBs, small, mid-sized businesses. So I'll say that again, exponential inbound marketing strategies for startups and SMBs. Exponential meaning when you do this, it compounds over time. Inbound meaning people come to you, not outbound. And for startups and SMBs, not Super Bowl ad spot budget. So it can be done with, you don't need an enterprise-sized budget to do it. I think this episode, what I shared about my lessons with TikTok, this is a great example of this. You can do this with no money. You can do this with poor equipment. You can spend not no money, but like $50 a month. Actually, I think $40 a month. You can spend 30 minutes to 90 minutes a day making videos. Every day, when you make a video, it starts to compound. People start to know you. They start to look forward to your videos. They make a habit of watching your videos. And it's inbound because people come to you. They watch your stuff and then they message you. And the social media platforms distribute your content for you, so you don't need to send it out trying to promote it in different places. I think this episode 113 of The Edward Show is a great example of exponential inbound marketing strategies for startups and SMBs. That was the mission statement that I wrote. Thank you all so much for listening. This is a long one. I believe it's one of my most useful episodes so far. I will talk to all of you again tomorrow. Bye now. Oh, one last thing. Hey, if you like this podcast, I'm not going to ask for a rating this time because a lot of you have already given me 5-star ratings. Thank you again for that. But if you find this podcast useful, please share it with other people who would also find it useful. That would be the most tremendous thing ever. All right. Thank you all so much. Bye now.